question was, since we can take in a remote sensor, can we monitor freezers? Absolutely. The remote sensor on the unit, we have 3 choices. And I'm glad you asked, because it makes me think of some other features based on that sensor. So in the sensor, when you select it, it can be a zone temperature, right? So it can control the zone. So if you put it in an office somewhere, it can be a outdoor temperature sensor, which you don't need to use it as outdoor temperature because we get weather from the internet, so we know exactly what's happening all the time. It can be an averaging sensor. So I can use the temperature sensor inside the controller and that to average the 2. But back to your question was, can I use it for a freezer? Yes, we have a 4th option, which is called a device temperature. And if you select that, you set it, and then you can name it anything you want. Cooler, freezer, hot water heater, whatever you want to monitor, right? It's just an input at that point to us. We're not using it for any control. Now, in addition to that, we have it already programmed to accept 10K Type 2 sensors, 10K Type 3 sensors, and 20K Type 4 sensors. So that way, when you get on the job site, you kind of use whatever you might have with you. You're not stuck. You probably can a lot of times use whatever's already existing in the facility. A ton of things from the input side, on the alarm inputs, being able to use it for, as I said, occupancy sensor. You can bring in a security alarm to it. So instead of setting a schedule, you can bring an input from your alarm system into us, and when it's activated, it will then put our unit into setback mode, and then take it out of setback mode for you. So you don't have to have a schedule necessarily.
You were talking about like how people seem to use these on, say you have a big campus and then you have like all these little buildings. They seem to use on the little buildings because they have a big expensive DDC system in the main campus. Is there a way that the big DDC system can look at the information being put off by your controls, or is it not? Can they communicate at all?
So the question that's being asked is, in these schools or facilities that have big DDC across them, can our system's data be integrated into the higher end system? The short answer is possibility is yes. We do have APIs that could interface with a larger system if someone wants to pull it out and get in there. We don't have a module to drop in to say work with Tritium yet. We might not. It kind of depends on where that market wants to take us to. Usually what happens though is a lot of these bigger facilities that have a lot of schools already, they may have a pseudo NOC, Network Operations Center. And what they'll do is they'll just throw us up on another screen, right? So they'll have one screen for their main schools, one screen then for our systems, or they'll actually go in and write a link that launches our site from the main interface. That's typically how they've done it today, instead of worrying about trying to, how do you get the data in, how do you organize it all in the right way. And plus rewriting all this software into that package is sometimes very difficult.
James, speak of you, what about how you guys do portable classrooms? Is that an application for this stat?
It's a perfect application for this stat. It's, I would say, in the schools, especially the schools, that's 90% of where they're putting us at. So in a portable building right now, very little insulation. So if you ever look at it, when it's hot outside or it's cold outside, the units are running all the time. So by putting us in, it gives them visibility and control. And what's a lot of times is out there is your standard Mercury stats, maybe a non-programmable, maybe a programmable, but the kids have all figured out how to go hold the 2 Honeywell buttons down or whoever and bypass it. This data is very good because you can put it in, you can see what's happening with it, and now you can actually have control. One of the things behind that we found, especially from the school district sides, they have hundreds of portables in a school system. Well, during the time of summers or other areas, they send one guy around trying to make sure they're all off or all set back or whatever. Well, this allows them to quickly see it, change it, and control it in a quick application, let them focus in on what's important. The other half of it is now they can really see when a problem is starting to occur. teachers are notorious for complaining about when it's hot or cold. This allows them to really see what's going on and if there really is a problem versus trying to figure out if it's maybe just a complaint that's not founded.
If you could use a Wi-Fi system in terms of a wireless router or something, what kind of distance are you talking about you had to put your router?
So the question is, if we're using the Wi-Fi version, what type of distance are we seeing from the router to our unit? Tough question. And it's a very tough question because it's very dependent upon the wireless router that's in place. And I wish I could tell you a better answer, but I've had wireless routers that I get 15 feet from, right? And the wireless router's signal degrades. I've had wireless routers that I've been a quarter mile down the road and we're picking up. A lot of it's just the antennas that are used on it, the power amplifier built into the wireless router. How the wireless networks are typically set up is that as long as the two fields overlap somehow, they communicate, right? So your unit isn't actually inside the field of the first wireless router. It's kind of as long as the two fields are together. So a lot of it's really dependent upon this device. What I have found, if I could take my phone and I can walk around wherever I have a stat and I can put my phone there and I still have that wireless signal, I'm in great shape. So I haven't had any issues with that.
So that is something, we're doing an application you'd want to check. And do you guys do like Zigbee or line of sight? What is your?
So we have two inside the controller. We have two radios. The first radio that's inside this controller is the Wi-Fi radio, which allows you to talk 802.n.11 or 802.11.n through the wireless network. And that gives you the backhaul to the cloud. The second radio that's built into is a Zigbee radio. So that Zigbee radio allows us to communicate to the energy monitor, to the lighting control systems, and so that way we're not worrying about being within a Wi-Fi network or how to configure that piece of equipment onto that network, because so often the energy monitors and lighting control pieces are stuck in mechanical rooms that have no Wi-Fi network, and they're stuck in metal boxes, right, that are very well grounded. So we have to have a strong enough radio that can get outside that. So an answer I can give you on distance, that radio distance from the controller to the energy monitors and the lighting controls is anywhere between 250 to 300 feet. And it's not line of sight. It's through walls, it's through concrete floors. We've had these products installed in basements and the controller installed on the third floor and they communicate. So one of the harder applications what you'd run into is in some of these older buildings, they have what's called a NEMA 4R enclosure, which is away from the building, and it's a solid box, metal box for weather enclosed tightness. We get through that box, through the field between the box and the building, into the building, and into our unit. In those applications, 100 feet is a very good distance to be able to get to. And the reason is because that green field, it's all about that intermediate green field that allows radio waves just to kind of go anywhere. When you're inside the building, radio waves somewhat bounce off the walls and it allows for a further distance. Even though that there's concrete and rebar and stuff in between, it still can get through. So back to the Wi-Fi though. What we've typically found is mostly it's usually there or someone can drop in a quick repeater to get going.
Is that something you guys provide the repeaters?
Best Buy.
That's my
Go in, buy the cheap one off the shelf and plug it in and be done. We are working on a master-slave version, right, where you could take the same product and you just tell it whether it's a master or slave, and then because one of the applications we're having is for schools or banks that are going to use the Ethernet version. Well, you don't want to run an Ethernet to every single unit. That's painful, right? So what we're doing is we're implementing a software which is selectable to where you can have a master and then multiple slaves that then tap into that. Any other questions? Those are good questions. So I appreciate it.
Typical A system, let's say one stand, one energy monitor, one remote sensor, what would that cost? The contract.
Contract.
So the typical sell price, right, for a system like that would be, and I'll start what a contractor would typically sell for.
You know what, let's do this, because again, our audience is gonna be such that if a user sees this and you're quoting contractor price, then the contractor's gonna be upset because they're gonna mark it up. If a contractor sees it, you're quoting user price. I think another way to ask that question would be, so James, compared to other people in the market, where are you guys like higher price, higher functionality? Are you,
We are.
so just,
We're not
sort of where
yeah,
we fit.
we're not the cheapest on the market. So if you're looking at a Vision Pro 8000, I'm not going to be a Vision Pro 8000 out. But I'm going to be better pricing than your Prolifics in the market. I'm going to be better pricing for the same amount of features, or actually more features than your Echobees in the market. I'm going to be more features and better pricing than your Prestige line or your Honeywell light building system controls. And then it really becomes the configuration, right? So we don't sell the remote sensors. So it's kind of whatever remote sensor you're already buying. This piece from an energy monitoring side is absolutely the most cost-effective solution in the market. There's nothing that comes close to what we do in the pricing scheme of this. The controller is on par, if not better than 80% of it. We're not going to compete against Home Depot though, guys. So.
Can you put that in a standard breaker box and still be within the code, or does that go outside the breaker box?
No, it goes with inside the breaker box. So it is all UL listed product.
The
So,
question is,
oh, sorry.
that's a good question.
Yeah. So the question was, can our GM product, the energy monitoring device, go inside a breaker box and still be within code? The answer is yes, because it is a UL listed product. So therefore, the system can go completely inside a breaker panel. And typically, by NEC code, how our product works is you do have a cable, so we can pick up voltage. And it's probably hard to see the cable, but we do ship a cable where you tap onto a breaker, and this allows us to see the true voltage of a system. So we're not estimating. There's some energy monitoring products out there that you put on CTs, and then you say I have a 480 volt system or a 208 volt system. The problem with that is we all know AC voltage fluctuates up and down constantly. So guess what happens with your power? It fluctuates up and down constantly. This allows you to really see what's happening. It also keeps the system very clean. By NEC code, you can do what's called double tap onto a breaker. So you can use an existing breaker and land our cables on top of that as well to use the power for it. And since it's always preferable to use a separate breaker if you can, but sometimes you got a panel that's full and you're trying to be in there. So do what you have to do.
Any other questions, guys? So,
Oh.
Would a contractor be able to log in, if a customer calls them and says they have problems, be able to log in and look at the different ones? Or is that proprietary just to
I'm going to give you two answers. The first answer, so the first question was, if I'm a contractor and I have a customer who calls me, can I log in and see what's happening? Simple answer is yes. The complicated answer is how you want to do it, in the sense of, is my customer giving me their login? Have they set me up as an account holder? Or we do, as part of that partner portal that I showed earlier in the presentation, where you can have your own web page with your logo on it, and your own domain name when the customer goes to it. With that, you get admin access, so you can log in and see every one of your customers. Now you can't control, we're not giving you the ability to go in and make changes unless your customer allows that, but you can go in and see exactly what's happening, so you get all the same information. You can see their energy, you can see their HVAC runtime, you can see everything that's happening with that system. So it's kind of, it's that window into the world.
Sweet. All right, we just want to, any other questions, fellas? Cool product, huh? This is great. And the other thing that I can talk about these guys is James worked with our team down in Florida where they had a whole other system and they were updating their software The other system within their network software, their
Right.
Microsoft. The other system was not able, other company was not able to come in and make it work. These guys we got a custom solution for them. So I think because of your guys' size and because of your willingness, there's some flexibility there. So if you guys come across somebody who's got an odd application, do not shy away from calling James, because we've been very impressed with what you guys have done.
So the other thing I didn't talk about was our unit is field upgradable, right? So the one thing that our design team has done a really good job on, everything we do is here in the States, right? So our design team is based out of Dallas. So that's what allows us that flexibility, because we can sit down and work with them on what makes sense, right? We try to implement features that make the most sense. But when we launch a new feature, you know, all of a sudden you go, well, then I have out-of-date hardware out in the field. The answer is no. Your hardware stays in the date because the hardware was doing what it all needed to do to begin with. But maybe it's a new feature. It's a new alarm, it's new something. Well, we can push updates remotely. So that way we keep that product up to date all the time. So if you have a customer today who has this product, or say a year ago they bought this product, and all of a sudden we launch this lighting solution, which we are. Well, they really want that lighting solution. It's a great add-on sell, right? It keeps you in front of them. Now you can go back to them and say, hey, I have this lighting, but you don't even need to worry about replacing your equipment. Let's push an update for you. And now it's ready to go to interface with this lighting. So what we try to remember at all times in our design team, we don't know what we don't know, meaning who knows what the future holds for us. But we try to make a very robust, solid core platform with software that is flexible to help our customer solutions. For more information, contact Stromquist & Company. These guys are here to help support you. Or visit our website, www.intouchcontrols.com, and we'll support you and our partner Stromquist to make sure your cell and customers love it. Thanks and have a great day.
If you need to control it or measure it, Stromquist & Company has a control solution for you. With over $2 million of inventory between our Georgia and Florida locations, an easy-to-use online ordering platform, same-day shipping, and a factory-trained team of controls experts to answer your questions, Stromquist & Company continues in its tradition of offering great service and great products.